have with us Piyush Aggarwal from India Today, Caroline Lindekamp from CORRECTIV, and Andrew Wong from Malaysiakini. They tried to use AI to query structured data sets and came up with two distinct products, and my apologies. And today they're going to be taking us through the lessons they've learned and the prototypes they've developed.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Lakshmi. Just to make sure you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction, and also thank you so much, Lakshmi, to you and the whole team of JournalismAI for supporting us and making this possible. As the team coordinator, I have the pleasure to introduce Team Daisy to you. We're from India Today, CORRECTIV from Germany, and Malaysiakini. So we're representing 3 newsrooms from different countries, different world regions, different size and different business models. And besides the 3 speakers that you will be seeing on the presentations, there have been Ankit, Benjamin, and Vashi, who have been equally or even more contributing to the project, and he will be meeting in the Q&A session. So as I said, we're completely different newsrooms. What actually did bring us together? We are all working with like big databases that we somewhat want to make more accessible to our users. So in other words said, as we are, of course, like most of the fellows are also working with large language model, the question was, how can we actually make data chattable? So our vision was to create an AI framework that helps the newsrooms as well as our audiences to ask questions on any structured data sets in natural language. So the idea was really, is there a way, like a universal solution to address our problem that could work for our use cases, but might as well be working for other newsrooms who could be applying the same tool. Yeah. And yeah, as I mentioned, so we were thinking of different use cases, and we started off our first use case that was based on data that India Today has provided to the team. It's next year is a super election year. I think there are around 70 elections worldwide, and one of them are the general elections in India. And generally, election reporting is a challenge to journalists or peak in political reporting. But what is special about the Indian election is actually that they are among the biggest in the world. India Today briefed us in about their last general elections in 2019. There were approximately 8,000 candidates and 700 political parties, and almost 1 billion users. So considering all these data points, you can imagine this is a challenge to reporting. And so far, India has addressed this issue by providing election dashboards to its users. So what you can see here is like a very nice piece of data journalism to visualize the vast body of data for the users. However, this comes with limits. For example, the data set needs to be reduced. But Piyush will be getting into this in a bit. So this was use case 1. And then we had a second use case, which is actually fact-checking. So countering disinformation through debunking activities in the newsroom. All our 3 newsrooms are having experience with fact-checking and providing fact-checks articles to our audience. India Today and CORRECTIV, we are both signatories to the IFCN standard, so to the International Fact-Checking Network. And fact-checking in general is facing challenges on their own, because we're always looking at ways how can we actually get the fact checks to those people who are particularly vulnerable to disinformation. And here what you see in the screenshots are a few examples on how CORRECTIV is dealing with it. So we are not only publishing our articles on the website, but we are looking into other channels. For example, we have like a WhatsApp community. We are preparing videos from our fact checks and other social media. And the question for us then was, is there also a way like to make our archive of fact checks like accessible, maybe with the help of large language models? So this is pretty much like the 2 use cases we were coming from. And we were envisioning like a universal solution as well. And we come up with 2 suggestions on how to tackle these problems. And the first one will be presented by Piyush. And afterwards, we'll be handing over to Andrew from Malaysiakini. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol, and thanks to the JournalismAI team, especially our mentors, including Jeremy, Joe, and Scott, for guiding us throughout the process. As Carol mentioned, Indian elections is one of the biggest elections in the world, comprising of nearly 1 billion voters. And as data journalists, we always struggle to come up with election dashboards because we have a few choices to make. And like, for example, there are lots of data available online which we can't show to the users. All the correlations are not possible to be shown to the users. And then there are design constraints, what visualization to be shown at the top, like you have seen in the slide that Kero presented a moment ago. Like, we have to be very precise because everything has to be a mobile friendly in terms of, and another thing would be it's a one-way communication. So what happens is it's as data editors, as journalists who works on data, it's always difficult, it's almost impossible to cater to the sensibilities and the preferences of every user. And so that's why we have put together this product called ElectionGPT. You can all access at electionsgpt.org. I'll be dropping a link in the Slack channel. And it works. We have data from Indian elections from 1961 till 2023. We have data of all the 36 Indian states and union territories here, and all the assembly elections and all the general elections. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so like I explained, the challenges that we address in the usual dashboard is always a one-way communication. As data editors and as data journalists, we all have this problem of not able to cater. So in this ElectionGPT, you can ask any question pertaining to Indian elections data from any state. You want to know the winners, you want to know the margins. And then another interesting thing is that it works in any language. You can type in Hindi, because in India we primarily speak in Hindi, but not in Hindi. You can work on any language. And another thing is it's an open playground. So we are not limited to the design constraints that we had. It's available. You can ask any kind of query. And another thing, we are also have addressed the issue of space, because in the mobile UI, you have to fit everything in the mobile. Here, you are limited to your own imagination. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so now giving about like how the tool works. So we have kind of developed a framework here which works on elections data for India. But let's say if you are like you all know, next year is going to be a huge year for all the countries where elections are happening across the globe. So if you work in a newsroom which has data, which has you want to something like this to be developed in your own language, you can follow this strategy, or you can reach out. Would be happy to collaborate. So we got the data from Election Commission of India. We worked with academics in India, especially IIT Delhi. We worked with newsroom schools in India to help us put together the clean data set from 1961 till 2023 of the 36 Indian states and union territories. We are using Postgres SQL as a database here, where all the data is being stored. And as a user interface developed by our in-house designer, her name is Surbi Sonwe. She has made the wonderful UI of the link, you can access it, where you can ask any kind of query in any language. It also has a voice capability where you can ask question by a voice, and it works on the GPT-4. We were working with GPT-3, but we got better results from GPT-4. Can you go to the next slide? Now we have a small demo presentation, which if Caro can play. Can you hear it?
No, we can't hear anything right now. Do you want to?
Caro, I think your voice is not audible.
GPT. ElectionGPT is an AI chatbot where you can ask data-related questions about Indian elections. But how does ElectionGPT compete with traditional methods? Let's take a look.
So here you can see one example. We are asking the same question to Google, and we are not getting the relevant results usually because it's difficult to get the relevant results here. So that sometimes becomes a bit challenging if you're working on a election story, and you have a hard deadline. So you can ask any question in any language. Here's a trial question that we are asking, and let's see. So we are asking how many candidates won. So we are it's like chatting with the data, like you chat with ChatGPT. You can ask any questions here. Yeah. So if you have any election data you want to work and you have any in your country, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Piyush. Andrew.
Next slide, please.
Introduce.
Salam sejahtera kepada sahabat-sahabat semua. The problem that we wanted to solve is removing obstacles faced by corrective users when checking claims against Corrective's fact-check database. Our solution will accept a claim in text and generate a textual output on whether the claim is true or false. Our first step is to summarize 3,000 plus corrective articles and turn the summaries into vector entities on MongoDB. Our tool, next slide, please. Our tool requires corrective users to input a claim that they want checked. To achieve this, we use the retrieval augmented generation technique in our tool called CheckBot, which does three things. Firstly, it gets the 5 best matches from MongoDB using vector similarity search. Secondly, it passes the information to a separate filter tool, which uses OpenAI GPT-4 Turbo model to determine which match has the best context and is also the latest article. This is necessary in case multiple similar fact-check articles exist in the database. Finally, if the tool did not find any matches, it will generate a response to inform the user of this. If there's a match, it will generate the appropriate response and provide a link to the match article. Next slide, please. So this is the tool currently set up on a test website set up by Corrective. In this example, we insert a claim to CheckBot. So it says in German that were there Nazis in the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's family? The chatbot replies no and shares a link to the relevant article. The second question posed in the demo just now is whether Batman is the Chancellor of Germany. Our tool is sensitive enough to know that there is no relevant matches to this claim. Next slide, please. So what we learn is that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to working with different data sets and making it chattable. So we learned that GPT-4 works well with numerical data sets, and while more text-based data sets would be more suited for vectorized databases. And we can also use OpenAI tools such as to create a filter to obtain the best results. We realized that foreign language is not a big obstacle because Vashi and I could work on CheckBot despite not speaking Germans because LLMs do. We also face challenges in estimating the cost of having our product running. Looking towards the future, India Today intends to expand ElectionGPT to CRIME-GPT, FactCheck-GPT, Sports-GPT, while Malaysiakini intends to expand what we have learned with CheckBot to Parliament and government data analysis tools. As for Corrective, they plan to integrate what we have created. They would want to put it into production, but they have to do more user testing and fine-tuning first. With that, final slide, please. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you to Journalism AI.
Thank you, Caroline, Piyush, and Andrew. That was a great presentation.